Hello. Hello. So, we'll just give people a minute to hop on. But happy Good Friday, everybody. We've got an interesting topic to talk about today. I'll give it a second. Hey, Drew. Hi. All right, so I'm hopping on live because last week I made a post about what health kind of looked like and what were things that people wanted to talk about, conversations people wanted to have about different health topics, and vaccines was one of them that came up. And so today I was like, today's a good day, so let's talk about vaccines. It's going to be different than I think you think it's going to be. But why is this important? One, because you guys want to talk about it. So I'm happy to talk about the topics that you want to talk about and how they pertain to health and wellness. And also, everything's kind of on hold. Like, we found out the other day that that things are kind of on hold until we have a vaccine for this. And with mandatory vaccines, like breathing down our neck, it's just like the perfect time to talk about these things. And I actually, when I was putting some notes together this morning, I heard this quote, and it was like an advertisement on YouTube. So if you know who this person is, let me know who it is, because I don't know who said it. But they said, oftentimes people try and change their world while they remain the same. And when he said that, I was like, that's so interesting and so true. And so we're going to talk about vaccines, but it's really more of like an exercise that I've taken myself on over the last couple of days. So I'm just going to be sharing that exercise and what that exercise looks like. And it's not like, I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do. I'm going to show you the exercise that I've been doing myself, and some kind of reflection that I've been doing myself, and some of the questions that have led me to make some changes, and some changes that I feel really good about and make me feel more confident in making health and wellness decisions. So I figure let's dive into it. And the other part of it is too, is like, you'll see this like as I go through and I share this, but the main thing is that me sharing this, you have an understanding of where I'm coming from, and that like you understand when we have this space, like for example, like right now in this space that we share, you'll get an understanding of how I perceive things or how I want to approach things, and how I want it to be very non-judgmental, because I say this and I'll say it all the time, but like health and wellness looks different to absolutely everyone. And I am in no position to judge people on any health decisions that they make for themselves. And so let's get into it. So this is what I did. So I found out last week that you guys wanted to talk about vaccines. That was one of the things. And I was like, okay, so I started thinking about, because there's a lot, like there's so many things we could talk about. But so I started like writing and trying to figure out where to start and like where to share, because for me, I'm going through to be a health coach right now, and the biggest thing is like asking questions, getting us to ask our own questions so we can start making decisions that are best for ourselves. And so I started writing down these questions. And then when Trudeau made that announcement about things kind of being on hold until we get this vaccine, I started writing even more and like trying to put my thoughts into paper. And this is what I did. Essentially, this is my piece of paper. I wrote down anti-vaxxer. Oh shoot, my marker's not gonna work. Anti-vax and pro-vax. It's not gonna work. Because in my experience, there's either like one or the other, right? You either like fall under these two categories. You're either anti or pro. So I made this list. I'm not going to show you my list, but anyway, I started making a list like this. And then I obviously did this so I could start making a chart. And I started writing down like my feelings towards each of these things. And my feelings and kind of like my perceptions of those. So like how a pro-vax person is perceived to be, or like how an anti-vax person is perceived to be. And then I started thinking about questions that we kind of like ask ourselves, because in my mind I'm thinking about how do I approach this topic where we can have this conversation with everybody, because this is a topic that affects every single person and it's very touchy. Like, people usually, if you've labeled yourself or if you kind of put yourself into like one of these categories, you feel really strongly about it. And there's nothing wrong with like feeling those strong feelings. But I think like what I started to see, and when I started to like write down questions, I was having a hard time figuring out like where they went into, which category they went into. And I started spending so much time trying to figure out where I fit, where these questions fit into. And then that made me think, what a waste of time. Because like, why am I worrying about my questions fitting into these categories? But it was important to me because I was trying to connect with people who, like, I'm trying to have this conversation with people who are like very pro-vax, right? So we have our guards up if we hear things that kind of make us think that people are trying to persuade us into different directions, right? So anyway, I'm not going to share my list, but this is a list I made and it was very helpful. I'm sharing this with you, so hopefully maybe this can help you too. 1 second, Ellie's at the door. 1 second, Ellie. Hi, baby. Is Daddy there? No. Here. Mommy's just making a video. You want to come and do a quick hello? You want to say hi quick?
Hello.
Okay, I'm going to take you back out to Daddy, and I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
No.
What's that, honey?
I don't want to outside.
You don't have to go outside, but we'll just find
I'm
you.
too cold.
I see that. Okay, and I'm back. So she's good to go. Yeah, so I have these 2 categories. And then I started thinking about my questions, right? And like where I'm going to put them. And then I'm wondering why I'm even trying to put them in a category. I should just be asking my questions. And then that made me start to think about like where did these come from? Hi, Nick. Where did these terms come from? And like, how can they be so dangerous? Because I think we quite often will use, and it's not just with this, but it's with a lot of things, right? If we are pro-vax, like if we've put ourselves into this category, someone who is anti-vax says something, we kind of just like dismiss it. Like we forget that they're human. Or we kind of use these things to like dehumanize each other or not listen to each other because they fall under that category, or they believe this and they don't believe that, or like it can just be super hurtful and put us in a place where we forget that we're just humans trying to figure out what's the next best thing to do. Like Frozen 2 says, what is the next best thing? So this is what I did. I took my list, I took my like anti-vaxxer, took the pro one, and I just did this. I just removed it, right? So as a health coach, not a health coach yet, learning, one of the things that we're learning about is like nutrition wise, if you are trying to remove foods, for example, remove foods from your life that don't make you feel good, like you know that you shouldn't really be eating them, but you really like them, it's hard to let go of them, and that's normal. So an important thing to do is start to crowd out, rather than be like, I can't eat that, I'm going to eat this instead, or I'm going to drink this instead. You try and replace it with something that is like an option that's more in line with your health. So yeah, that's, so I was thinking, what is a term that I can put here to give myself, like, to allow myself to ask questions and like, just for everybody. Literally, you have a term that I can use for everybody. And so I came up with intelligent human. Intelligent humans. So this is now my list. And as you can see, it's not divided. There aren't barriers that I'm trying to cross to figure out where I belong when I ask certain questions, or worry that I'm going to be labeled as this, or label myself as this because I've asked a certain question, right? So by taking away those terms, they just don't serve me anymore. They don't serve a purpose, like a positive purpose for me. So I don't see people as anti or pro-vax anymore. I see people as intelligent humans. And same for myself. I'm not like trying to put my questions in a category. I'm just creating space that allows myself to ask questions that are best for me and best for my health and like best for my family. And I think that we like imagine imagine the narrative with us seeing something. So one thing that I saw this summer, I think it was this summer. I don't even know what day it is anymore. So I think it was this summer, but it was like one of those Facebook threads, and it was about people like a nurse. I don't even know if it was real, but anyway, it was a story that was being passed around, and it was about how this person would go into an emergency room, and if they didn't have their vaccinations, then they shouldn't be provided medical care. And I was like sick to my stomach when I read that, because it's just like immediately, because of that label that was put on somebody, they're labeled as an anti-vaxxer, so they didn't think they deserved to get medical care anymore. So it was like the fact that they were human was removed. And when I was trying to figure out like what is an anti-vaxxer anyway, who actually is an anti-vaxxer, because when I look at it through the media, it's like very clear it's either like us versus them. But there are quite a few anti-vaxxers who were pro-vax, and then either they had an injury or like their family members had an injury. Something happened that got them to start asking more questions, and then it just like, but it's just this tool. These pro and anti terms are just tools that are meant to pin us like against each other, and it just doesn't help anybody, I don't think. So that's my own thoughts, right? So that's why I have created the space of intelligent humans. This is where I come and where I like write questions and things that I want to learn more about, and not worrying about where that puts me in someone else's label or someone else's box, and a little bit like that. I made a list because I knew I was going to get distracted. So 1, it creates a space to ask questions. 2, it allows me to choose kindness. 2, kindness to allow myself to ask those questions without being like, that's a stupid question, or if you actually believe that, you wouldn't have that question, right? So when I have this space, I'm going to give myself kindness to use this space that is going to best serve me. I'm also going to choose forgiveness, because maybe now I've learned something and I have, along this journey, I have learned things where I would have made different decisions than I did before, but like beating myself up about that doesn't change anything about the future. It doesn't put it in any kind of positive light. So it creates space for forgiveness, and it creates space. Can you tell I'm a little bit nervous? It creates space for acceptance. Like, drop the judgment and just accept that you have questions, or you have these things going on in your life and they're important to you. And so anyway, this has been super helpful. It's been super helpful for me, and I was thinking I really want to share this because with everything going on right now, and if it comes to a point where it's like mandatory vaccines, which is just like, what? That's not even about vaccines. That's just like we're losing our fundamental rights at that point. But it's not that far away. It's really not that far away. And I think it's partly because we're like brainwashed to put ourselves in these categories or in these camps. And we're just like fighting against each other rather than coming together, seeing each other as humans, recognizing that everybody has different health needs, and that you personally, like me personally, I'm in charge of my own health. I don't expect anyone else to take care of me or figure things out. And it's very empowering. It's so empowering. Every single individual has that ability. We don't need to be waiting for someone to come and save us, because we do have those answers. But I think we kind of forget that, and because of us being like bombarded with all these things that we should and should not do, and if you are this, you do not believe this, and you should not ask this question. It's just tiring. It's exhausting. And then I feel like people are so exhausted at that point that they're not like turning inward and finding out what is best for them. And because when you do this, like I promise, when you create a space like this for yourself, to ask questions, to choose kindness, to choose forgiveness, to choose acceptance. Like when you do that for yourself, you are going to open up that space for someone else. And what kind of change would that create? What kind of difference would that make, if we created that space for ourselves and for other humans? So, yeah, this is our vaccine talk because I think it's super important. So this has been like the journey that I've been on, well, for a long time now, but like really focusing in. I wanted to share that I don't subscribe to those terms anymore. So when people are send me messages or ask questions and things like that, I don't want you to think that I'm just gonna like sit here and be like, oh, they're an anti-vaxxer, oh, they're a pro-vaxxer, because they've asked this question. I am literally gonna see you exactly how you are. You're an intelligent human who has a question. And that's how it should be, I think. There's a lot more peace. I feel so much peace about that. And, another thing. So, intelligent human. I picked intelligent human. I think that if you go through this exercise, which it would be, I obviously recommend because it's been huge for me. It might be very, very helpful for you, but yeah, I picked intelligent human because there's people in my life, very close people in my life, who share very different views than me, and we talk about these things quite often. And something happened earlier this week, or maybe last week, but in that conversation, they told me that the way that I talk to them, or the way that I'm like telling them these things, it's like I don't think they're intelligent. Like it's like I think they're stupid, and I'm laying it out in this way, or I'm approaching it in this way that makes them feel really stupid. Because I said the same thing to this person that I was talking about. Like, I feel really stupid when I talk to you about these things because of like how you react or how you respond. And their response was, I feel the same way. And so I obviously didn't want this person to feel that way. That wasn't my intention, right? So when I took out those terms, when I wiped out pro and anti-vaxxer, and I was like thinking about what I wanted that intention to be, is I never wanted that person to think that I was, or for me to think that I think that they were stupid, because I never ever thought that. The opposite. So anyway, that's why my approach is like intelligent humans. I'm just gonna, even if I read an article and it's like pro-vaxxer does this or anti-vaxxer does this, I'm going to read it as intelligent human does this, because it just, for me, changes everything. Because I don't have those feelings that I wrote down earlier, those feelings or those assumptions or those projections that I had about those terms. They're gone. They're gone when I used intelligent humans, and I can actually approach it and like listen in a way that I don't have those feelings attached to it. The feelings that I have attached to intelligent humans is that I want to be treated the same, like I want them to be treated the way I want to be treated. And I do want to be treated like an intelligent human. Like, who doesn't want that, right? Well, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like they're a caring person, or maybe it's like someone on a journey. I don't know. You fill in the blanks. This is your exercise. You do it in a way that that's aligned with you. These were just my own words. So yeah, that's it. So I think that's it. Anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions. It's on live, or do you want to chat more? But yeah, that's the big thing. I wanted to share it so you understand the space. So when those things come in, I want you to understand that I see you as an intelligent human, no matter what your question is, or no matter what. So I wanted to share that. And then this might not apply to you, but it's Good Friday today. So I was in here and I was looking at my Bible. So this is like my childhood Bible. Thanks, Mom, for keeping it. She gave it to me not that long ago. But like the one page that I turned to, and this might mean nothing to you, and that's okay. To me, it was significant because I opened it and it immediately said, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, be lest you are consumed by one another. And that's Galatians 5:14 and 15. And when I read that this morning, it was just like that really was what was on my heart, is because with all the changes, COVID-19 is happening right now. Everything is changing. There's a lot of fear being pushed our way. There is a lot of judgment for people who aren't making the same decisions we are, or what we think they should be making, or, there's just a lot of that. There's so much of that. And I just think that the thing that comes out of COVID-19, it's not going to be mandatory vaccine. I don't think that's in our story, because, and if it is, if we decide to give our health opinions or our health decisions over to someone else like that, then it's not anyone else's fault except for all of our own, because we are in this together, right? And let's use this as a time to come together and wipe our slates clean and figure out what is best for us, and look inwardly and stop making those judgments. Essentially, like what I already said, create space to ask questions, to choose kindness, to choose forgiveness, to choose to drop the judgment, and to accept. So, and love. So that's it. That's what I got. So if there is questions, you can let me know, or message them after me, and maybe this wasn't for you today, and that's okay. That's totally fine too, but it was on my heart. It's been super helpful for me, and I hope that it can be helpful for you too. So happy Good Friday to you all, and I'll talk to you soon.